Hello. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians on the lands that we are meeting on today. I pay my deepest respects to elders past, present and emerging. The State Records Act and Records Management Standards issued by State Records New South Wales create the framework for records management in New South Wales Government. In 2021, we were conscious of a gap in our framework and that there was no formal assessment process to know if records management was compliant. This is the rationale that led us to develop the Records Management Assessment Tool. In designing the tool, we wanted to assist public officers understand what best practice or compliant record keeping looks like by showing how the records management requirements could be implemented into organisational operations. We also wanted to assist public officers measure their maturity and compliance with the requirements of the State Records Act and use this assessment process to inform continuous improvement processes. And as the regulator of records management, we wanted to be able to assess and report on the state of record keeping across the jurisdiction of the State Records Act. The Records Management Assessment Tool, or RMAT, is available for download from our website in Word or Excel formats. The RMAT is also the basis of the record keeping monitoring exercise. Let's look at the RMAT in a bit more depth. The RMAT is a self-assessment tool. It can be used to assess a business unit or a whole organisation, and it can be used at any time during the year. We tell public officers that the RMAT shouldn't just be used for the assessment process for the record-keeping monitoring exercise. Instead, use the RMAT as part of the continuous improvement process to assess, monitor, and plan the ongoing development of records and information management in the organisation. The RMAT assessment process is also a useful conversation starter between records and information management professionals and staff in business units. Undertaking an RMAT assessment is a great way to find out how well record keeping is happening at an operational level, gain perspectives on the organisation's conformity with requirements and its records and information management maturity, raise awareness of organisational policies, records and information management responsibilities, and records and information management services, and identify the challenges, barriers, and opportunities in improving records and information management and other aspects of the organisation's operations. The RMAT has 19 questions. These cover all the obligations in the State Records Act, the State Records Regulation, and the 2 standards issued by State Records New South Wales. The questions cover records management, governance and strategy, the creation, management, storage of records, information and data, the access arrangements for records, information and data, retention and disposal of records, information and data, and the transfer of those records that are required as state archives to the State Archives collection. Briefly, a public office needs to work through the 19 questions and select one of the 5 levels of maturity which best describes the current state of maturity, capability and compliance. Please remember that when you are doing the assessment, you are looking at the entire records and information management landscape in your organisation. So you need to consider the EDRMS, managing records in M365 and SharePoint, managing records in business systems, emails, hard copy physical records. These all need to be included in your assessment. The maturity levels that you're looking at are nested, so you can use the maturity levels to identify what you need to do as an organisation to improve your level of compliance and maturity and capability. Let's take a quick tour of the RMAT. These screenshots are from the Excel version of the RMAT. On the left-hand side of the slide, you'll see the title page of the RMAT. This page allows you to complete details of when the assessment is being carried out. You can choose your organisation from the drop-down menu. All public officers are listed in the RMAT. On the right-hand side of the slide, you'll see the 3 questions that are the preliminary questions before you get to the 19 assessment questions. These questions are completed to provide us with information about your organisation and are mandatory when completing your record-keeping monitoring exercise submission. In the spreadsheet, you'll see a tab called RMAT. This is where the 19 questions are based. You'll need to work through each question and select the maturity level that is applicable to your organisation. As an example, the slide is showing question 6 on records and information management responsibilities. The question is on the left-hand side in bold, and on the right-hand side you have the 5 levels of maturity which are connected to this question. When choosing the maturity level, you need to make sure that your organisation has fully met the maturity level and has documented evidence to support the level that you've selected. If your organisation is between 2 levels or you haven't quite achieved all of the maturity level, please select the lower level of maturity. Each question of the RMAT also includes links to further information on the question topic and examples of evidence. The examples of evidence are not prescriptive, they're just suggestions. The examples listed also match up with the examples of compliance suggested in the records management standards. Importantly, please make sure you identify evidence which is specific and relevant to your organisation and supports the maturity level that you've chosen. In the spreadsheet version of the RMAT, you'll see that there are green ticks at each question. These ticks have been pre-populated into the Excel spreadsheet so that you can see how the scoring tab works. Before you start your assessment, please remember to untick the questions so that you can actually tick and correctly identify your maturity level. As the RMAT maturity levels are scored, this allows for the development of a score out of 5 for each question and an overall maturity score for the organisation based on the average of the 19 questions. Baseline compliance is set at level 3, so scores under 3 are considered below compliance, while scores of 3 and above are considered compliant. In the Excel version of the RMAT, the results of the assessment automatically feed into the scoring table. The scoring tab or table includes a number of visualizations of the results of the assessment. On the slide, I've included the bar graph and the traffic light report. The traffic light report is a useful report for discussing areas of improvement with management, as it provides a quick view of the questions and the requirements which are below compliance. They're shown with the red light. The report identifies the requirement, which could be a minimum compliance requirement in a standard or a requirement in the State Records Act or the State Records Regulation, and then identifies the corresponding RMAT question and then the traffic light, which is identifying what the score has been in your maturity assessment. So green lights obviously are level 3 maturity and above. Red lights are below the level of compliance, so a level 1 or a level 2. The scoring table also provides a report by RMAT categories. The RMAT is divided into 3 topic categories: people and governance, systems and business, and information management. The categories provide insights into a public officer's capability. The slide that you're seeing includes a small snip from the information management category, which shows the score for each question in that category and an overall percentage for the questions in that category. So for information management, that's questions 15 through to 19, and in this case, there is a score of 48%. Looking at the results for the 3 categories is another way of identifying what are the strengths and the weaknesses in your records management program, and also identifying the opportunities for improvement. One of the questions that we get asked quite regularly is, who should complete the assessment? As some of the RMAT assessment requires a high level of records management knowledge, we recommend that the assessment should be completed by the person or the team who is responsible for overseeing records and information management in the organisation. The team or this person should have also an organisational perspective on how aspects of records and information management are conducted across the organisation, including information security and the use of the cloud. The person or team doing the assessment will also need to collaborate with key staff across the organisation, such as system owners, business managers, data custodians, and right-to-know officers. The RMAT assessment should also be viewed as an opportunity to build awareness and communicate between the records and information management team and the business, and to get an appreciation of the ecosystem of records, information and data in your organisation and how well it's supporting business needs. As the RMAT has now been in use for 4 years and been the basis for the record-keeping monitoring exercises, it's timely for us to review the tool and make sure that the tool remains fit for purpose. Version 2 of the RMAT was released in July 2025 and is available for download from our website. We've updated the RMAT to incorporate the updated requirements from the State Records Regulation 2024, the revised Standard on Records Management, and the revised Standard on the Physical Storage of State Records. We've also updated the links to guidance and the examples of evidence which are included in the tool. Please note that the examples of evidence are not prescriptive, they're just suggestions. Another aspect of our revision has been to provide more focus on the need to identify evidence to support the maturity level chosen. As the RMAT is an evidence-based assessment, it's really important that when you're doing your assessment, you identify the evidence specific to your organisation which supports the maturity level that you've chosen. When you look at the revised RMAT, you'll see that we've moved the examples of evidence to another part of the form so that you have a dedicated column in the spreadsheet to list the evidence that you've used for each question. This slide lists the revisions that we've made to the RMAT. Briefly, we've strengthened the connection between questions and their requirements in the standards, the Act and the regulation. We've updated the supporting text for each question so that the connection between the requirement and the question is explicit. We've updated maturity levels to better reflect requirements. The revisions that we've made to the RMAT will not impact your ability to map your results from previous assessments and submissions to the record-keeping monitoring exercises in 2022, 2023 and 2024 to your results in the 2026 record-keeping monitoring exercise. In the revisions, we've also added an additional question to those preliminary questions at the front of the RMAT. This is a new mandatory question which will need to be completed as part of your submission for the 2026 record-keeping monitoring exercise. The new question is designed to provide State Records New South Wales with an understanding of whether the Chief Executive of your organisation has approved the response to the record-keeping monitoring exercise as an accurate and evidence-based assessment of your organisation's current compliance with the State Records Act. State Records New South Wales has recently released a new RMAT guide. The guide is designed to accompany the RMAT and provide explanatory information and instructions on how to conduct the assessment. The guide also includes a small section on information asset registers and their value in managing records, information and data. The information asset register can also be used to provide the evidence base for your RMAT assessment. We have suggested in the guide that the public officers may like to create a register or inventory of the evidence that you rely on to support your RMAT responses and your biennial record-keeping monitoring exercise submission. Turning to the record-keeping monitoring exercises, or RME as we know them, these actually commenced in 2022 when State Records New South Wales recommenced formal monitoring under Section 12(4) of the State Records Act. The record-keeping monitoring exercise is a mandatory requirement for all public officers. In the monitoring exercise, each public office is requested to provide the results of a recent RMAT self-assessment and to identify the evidence that has been used to support the selection of the maturity levels. Public officers may also provide comments in the submission, which provide context and also support the assessment submission. 289 public officers participated in the 2024 record-keeping monitoring exercise. This equates to 77% of the jurisdiction or a 77% response rate. This is up from a response rate of 74% in 2023. We're hoping to see an increase in participation in the 2026 RME. The results of the RME are reported at aggregate level or summarised level, and the report is made publicly available on our website. Turning to next year's record-keeping monitoring exercise, the RME will run during March, from the 2nd of March through to the 27th of March 2026, and each public office will need to submit a response. To begin preparing for the 2026 record-keeping monitoring exercise, you need to download and use the new RMAT to conduct your assessment. Make sure that you've downloaded the July 2025 version of the RMAT. Make sure you identify evidence to support the maturity levels you have chosen. Complete the 3 questions at the front of the RMAT. That includes the CEO approval question, budget, and size of the organisation. Then you will need to submit your assessment via the service portal, which is the log-on is via our website during the record-keeping monitoring exercise period. If you don't have a log-on for the service portal, please contact us ahead of the monitoring exercise so that we can organise a login for you. From 2026, State Records will be focusing on evidence, and we will be following up with any public office that doesn't identify evidence in its Records Management Assessment Tool submission. Please don't send us your evidence, just identify it in your submission. From next year, we will also be commencing a process to verify responses provided to the record-keeping monitoring exercise, and this will involve a sample of public officers. The verification process is designed to establish that the information provided by public officers to State Records in their submissions is accurate and correctly reflects the current state of maturity and compliance in the public office. As in past years, we'll be providing scorecards to CEOs of public officers and publishing our State of Record Keeping in New South Wales report. And lastly, here's some further information, which is links to pages on our website that you may find useful, and also contact information for contacting us at State Records New South Wales if you have any inquiries about the RMAT or the upcoming record-keeping monitoring exercise. Thank you.